welcome to another episode of Same Blood, where we have conversations with people about life. Doesn't sound complicated, it's really not, but it seems like an important thing to do these days, so that's what we're doing. And today, I have the great honor and privilege of talking to Rhonda Jones. Now, did I say your name correctly?
You did perfectly.
Okay, I have this thing now about actually making sure that I'm saying people's names correctly, because I just realized how much it matters to actually care.
Yes.
You know, I hate when I find out that I've been pronouncing people's names wrong or something like that. I'm like, that can't feel good if you're that person.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I am as well. Now, before we get too far into the conversation, I do want to address the beautiful picture behind you. If you are watching this video, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're listening on the podcast, well, we'll get to the conversation in a second. So I'm going to have you show our viewers what that painting is behind you so they can see.
So I love art, and I really love African art. I thought she was an amazing picture when I walked by her in the store, and I love jewelry, so it all just kind of incorporated my likes, and so that's why I have her sitting here.
I love it.
Call her Majesty. Her name is Majesty.
I like it. It's a beautiful painting, and I know if somebody's watching the interview, they were going, what does the rest of that painting look like? So now you have seen it, and we can continue on with the conversation. Yes. Okay, so for people who do not know who you are and what you do, in a nutshell, I'll have you just let people know who you are and what you do.
Wow. Okay. So my name is Rhonda Jones. You got that correct at the top of the hour. I am a mother of one son. I am a sister to one brother. I am an aunt to 4 nieces, a handful. I create dramatic presentations like dances, anything artsy, dramatic, kingdom-minded type of productions. I spend a lot of time in the community, just serving the community wherever God says go. I'm one of those radical people that's like, God said it, I'm going to do it. Ask questions later. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm pretty easygoing, laid back kind of person. I'm also an author. I've written 2 books. 3rd book is almost complete, which will be out in February of 2021. So I'm excited about that. I pour into singles, living saved, sanctified lives for Christ. So those things are really important to me. So that's me in a nutshell. That's what I do.
You know what? That is one of the best descriptions I've ever heard somebody give of themselves. So that is awesome. I feel like I know. Practice. Yeah, hey, it does sound like something you have put some time into to make sure you get it all in there. That's awesome. Very cool.
Yes.
What we like to do at the start of these interviews as well is hit a couple of favorites. It's a way to just kind of get to know some things about people. And it's sort of an easy way to hop in, right? Get to know them a little bit, find some things you agree with, maybe some things you disagree with, and then we'll go from there. So we always start with, what is your favorite snack?
Oh my. So this is going to be weird. My favorite snack is raw broccoli. And I eat it right out of the bag.
Okay, yeah, that's weird. That's
Yep. It's very weird. I love it.
No, that's great though. I
love the crunch, the texture, the taste, the color, all that.
You know, growing up, I liked raw broccoli if I had some ranch to dip it in.
Right. That's what most people think. Yeah. I put nothing on it. But on the less weird side, I love jelly beans, and I have that here. I snack on those all day. And then my staff, they always keep me full of gummy bears. They're almost gone. I love gummy snacks. So those are things that I really like.
I'm glad that there's also a slightly less healthy option for the snack, because all of our listeners, everybody watching, was sitting there going, wait a minute, really? That's the snack food? Like, I feel terrible because I like just, candy and
M&Ms, yeah.
Exactly. But we did have a guest who said their favorite snack was frozen mangoes. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're different.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So the next favorite we normally talk about is, well, the first question is, are you a sports fan?
I love football.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. However, I've been that way for years. So I'm not going to change. I'm going to stick with my team no matter what. And I'm sticking to them.
You have to. You know, I made a decision a handful of years ago because I was born in Washington State and I moved down to Texas with my family when I was 5. And then a few years later, when the Cowboys were terrible, I was like, man, am I going to be a Seahawks fan or a Cowboys fan? And I was like, no, I'm going to be a Cowboys fan. I was like, so I'm just in, right? Just made that choice and I'm in. I think the next year the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. And I was like,
oh, wow.
I think I picked the wrong team. Like what? But I'm in, you know, like, so I'm a Cowboys fan because I have this thought that if they ever win the Super Bowl again, I want to be able to be like, I was there from when they were terrible for like 25 years.
Exactly. We're loyal from the beginning.
Exactly.
To the end. Yes,
exactly.
sir.
But I can't tell you how many people go, unfortunately, I'm a Cowboys fan.
Yes.
I love it.
It's the rule of thumb. We have to say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Do you have a favorite movie? And let me preface the question with this. Not like a movie you think is like the best, but a movie that you're always going to stop and watch if it's on TV. Because there's some movies that I'm like, this is just an incredible movie, but it takes like so much emotional capital to sit down and watch it that I'm not necessarily going to watch it all the time. So it's more like that movie that if it's on TV, I'm going to watch it.
You know what? The first one that pops into my head is Monster-in-Law.
Okay.
With Jennifer Lopez and I can't remember the mother's name, Jane Fonda.
Yep.
And she was, she fell in love with her son and the mom didn't think she was good enough. So I love those types of stories. And I always told my son, if I didn't like the person you dated, I will let you know, but ultimately it's your choice of who you end up with. So I love that movie. I'll watch it anytime it pops on.
Nice. That's a good choice. I have seen that movie. It's been a little while, but I feel like I remember liking that. But honestly, those types of movies, I'm probably going to enjoy. I'm not going to necessarily tell everybody that I'm not going to post about it on Facebook, but I mean, I'll still probably enjoy them.
Keep it to yourself.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. I'll begrudgingly fight my wife when she says, we should. But I don't know if we should. Okay, fine. We can.
We'll watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Smart guy. So you mentioned something. You mentioned your staff. Now, when you say your staff, who are you talking about?
So I'm the office manager for Prestonwood Pregnancy Center here in South Dallas. And I have a wonderful staff. I don't know if I should mention their names, but I love all of them. They bring quite a joy to the office. We basically help women and families who have unplanned pregnancies, and we help them kind of work through their issues. We take assessments of what they're feeling, what their plan is. Not every mom or family wants to parent. So our job is to have that conversation of other options, preferably adoption. If there are families that are considering abortion, we share the risk factors of that. We share all the reasons why it's not a good decision. Unfortunately, ultimately, this decision is theirs, but we provide all the information that they need to make a rational decision. We're able to pray with all of our clients, which is awesome. What job lets you do that, unless you're a pastor or you pastor something like that? We get to love on them and walk through life. They get free sonograms, free pregnancy tests. The fathers get classes that they can take online. The mothers get parenting classes and all types of things. So I've been there for about 2 years now.
Now that is a job that I don't think almost anyone, if you've never been in that situation, I don't think anybody could really imagine what it's like to sit down with these people and, in this situation. That sounds like something that would be both rewarding and then incredibly, incredibly challenging.
It is. It's a pouring out every day. I always tell my staff, if you go home full, you haven't emptied out enough. And so when we leave, we have given our all. God has given us all the wisdom and the things to say, and we should go home exhausted. A good exhaustion, Right. So I love it. I wouldn't trade anything for it.
That's awesome. And I know that organizations like yours, you always need help. You always need volunteers, correct?
Yes. with a capital V.
And so I just wanted to make sure I put that plug out there right here, because we're going to go we're going to talk about some different things. We're going to go into some different topics, but I want to make sure I put that out there and so the name of it again is.
So if you're interested in volunteering, it's prestonwoodpregnancy.org. And we need volunteers, advocates. We need people to sort baby clothes. We need people to help us do pregnancy tests. We need people to actually sit with the clients and talk to them through their situations. We need people that will pray with them. So we need a lot of things. So it's prestonwoodpregnancycenter.org, and you can see all the information on our website.
Awesome. So I just want to make sure we got that at the very start instead of at the very end. So we've got that. So if you're listening, you're watching, if you are interested in any way, you're in the area, please go to the website, check it out, and consider volunteering. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you specifically, because I knew that you work there. I guess you could say you work there, right? And it puts you in a really unique situation as far as understanding the value of life and understanding people's value. And one of the things that we talk about, one of the reasons we started this whole podcast, the whole idea with the name Same Blood, is that it feels like right now in the country, in the world, in our communities, that we're not valuing each other in a way that we should be. And we're not holding each other up as people who are created by God with intrinsic, amazing value. And that's how we should be looking at each other and viewing each other. And so I wanted to get your perspective on that, on what you see, but then also why it's so important to have that, to value each other like that.
Right. That's a really good question. So in my lifetime, I've traveled the world. My dad was Air Force. And so I've seen many different types of people, been all over the world. Honestly, yes, I saw color, but it didn't mean much to me. At that, people are people. I think right now, the hardest thing to swallow now is that although we are different in nature, we're different in there's men, there's women, there's Black, there's white, there's Asian, there's Puerto Rican. The only thing that really separates us is our opinion of each other. So even if I'm sitting next to my Black sister, I have an opinion of her that's in a negative light, of course, that divides us. I see her in a way that's not necessarily her, it's just how I see her. And so if we get past all these opinions that we have of one another, we would really ultimately see that we are one blood. We all have veins running through our bodies and made by the Creator God. And so nowadays, progressing years forward, I'm starting to see more now, looking around at other people thinking, okay, what do you think about me when you see me? What do you think when you see a Black woman walking down the street? Are you summing me up in some type of way? How do you feel about me? What is your thought process? Whereas before I never thought about it. Like I didn't care. And so the times are different now, and we meet so many different people in the world today that I just really think, I go back to my first statement, it's just our opinion. And we're holding our opinions as facts, and they're not facts. They're not true most of the times at all.
Yeah, absolutely. We have these presuppositions about people based on things we've seen, things we've read, and almost always not based on the person who's across from us. It's based on this other information we've just put together randomly, and we're like, well, let's put all of that on you. And
yes, exactly.
Which that's never going to end well. One of the things I was talking about on the last podcast was just this idea that right now there's this hilarious hypocrisy that exists on social media and in person, where people, when they talk about themselves and their past mistakes and their past whatever, their baggage, they talk about it like, that's not who I am. This is my journey and I'm growing. And it's always trying to frame things in this positive light about we're improving and all of these things, like, look at where I'm going, not where I've been. But then as soon as the camera switches around and they look at somebody else, they're like, this one time I heard that you made a joke or that you did this. And so, your life should be ruined and you have no value anymore. And to me, it's like this, this doesn't work. You can't have community like this. It's not going to work out. And I think we're seeing that all over the place, and it's really, really awful.
Right. That's a really good analogy. I hadn't thought of it like that. I really like that aspect of it. Yeah.
Well, all you have to.
Crazy.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's crazy that that makes sense that we look at life like that. You know, we have grace for us, but we don't have grace for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then even more so, even with, and I'm just talking about right now, Christians as a whole sometimes act like the world, like the grace is different depending on who you are, and that's not what we should be. Jesus died for all of us, so there's grace extended to all of us. But like you said, we look at things differently when it pertains to us than somebody else.
Yeah, well, it's just so funny to me because you can just scroll through Facebook or Twitter, and it's like you just see these posts in between where it's like, oh man, I'm on this journey, I'm growing, and then the next person's like, oh, cancel this person for something, and it's like, this is really. At some point, are we going to turn around and actually look at ourselves in the mirror and go, wait, this doesn't make any sense? But
exactly.
Hopefully we
I
do.
agree.
So one of the things that I've been trying to do with myself and encouraging other people to do is basically, and you have to intentionally remove the presuppositions you're going to make about other people, remove the lens that you're trying to view pretty much anybody through. Right? And replace it, not just remove it, but replace it with some assumptions you're going to make about people, and replace it with these, which is kind of a decent starting point, I think. And that is one, that the person you're interacting with is created by God and therefore has value and has purpose. Two, that person across from you, just like you do, they love and they want to be loved. The person across from you cares about their friends, their family. They want what's best for their friends and their family and their world. That person across from you either has a purpose, has a goal, has a dream that they want to achieve, right? Yes. And so you just start with just a handful where it's like this person has the same sort of base ideas that you do. Now there might be some differences, but if you start there, then you can build out from there. And I would much rather have you prove me wrong on a good assumption than, prove me right on a bad assumption, So I just feel like if we started there, then at least we could have a conversation on a decent footing and then find out, about each other.
Yes, I totally agree. Absolutely.
So that's something we're trying to do. And that's something that's been really helpful for me because basically I've just been taking all of my blinders off or trying to and having conversations with people and going, what can I learn from you? Who are you?
And see, that's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. We can learn so much from each other. Even in my office on a day-to-day basis, there's things that I do and say, and my friends who are not Black, they're like, that is so funny. Like, where did you get that? And we have a conversation about it. Or if someone that's not my race, they say something, I'm like, so what exactly does that mean? We have those conversations. And just imagine how much smarter and brighter and broader we become when we share each other's experiences and things that we do just in our culture, how much richer we become as a people. So yeah, I love that. Let's talk about it. I think God has created us all, that we all have a story that we can share. More books, more things to read, more lives to live, more experiences. It's like, it will be awesome. Instead of closing those doors on each other because of our differences. Who wants to live that life?
Well, apparently everyone does, which is so sad because nobody really wants to, but everybody seems to be doing that. I had one of the first guests on the podcast, this guy named Ben Chavez. He made this comment. Somebody he knew had said this about talking about different cultures. And he was saying that cultures and some of the ways that we express these differences and these unique things about different cultures. He said that what that is it's expressions of this amazing God made, God put in there uniqueness that exists in humans. And it shows up in these really unique, beautiful ways that we should look at and go, wow, like this is amazing, that this is what comes from your culture. And this is what you got. This is what, kind of blossomed out of that. And that's beautiful, and then maybe this culture, it showed up in this way, and there was, there's different priorities. There's different ways that they show up. There's different expressions. And it's like, this is incredible. It shows the
Yes.
variety. It shows the incredible potential. And instead of being like, well, I'm sorry, my culture only allows me to do these things right here. It's like, well,
Right.
that's just because you didn't grow up around those people,
Exactly.
who cares, you know? And actually it kind of goes back to the piece of art behind you, the beautiful piece of art behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I know, because even as much as I've been trying to fight against it, it's still there a little bit, where I look at that and I go, that is beautiful. But am I allowed to ask you and talk to you about Black art or African
Right.
art? Like, you know, there's like this weirdness where it's like, no, if you were an Italian, like, right, it'd be like, oh, well, for sure, like we can talk, right? And I'm not worried. But there's like this ridiculous thing where it's like,
Yes.
how do I ask you about the painting?
Without somebody saying, why you asking about my art? You got a problem with my art? No, I'm just asking you,
Right.
What does it mean? That is so funny to me because it's so very true. And I never want my brothers and sisters who are of a lot of complexion as me to ever feel like they can't ask me questions, or even, you know, if I'm laughing at something I say and ask me, or why is that funny? Like, why did you say that? Because I think that we all learn from each other and we grow from each other. I wouldn't want anyone walking on eggshells around me. And I know exactly what you're saying. I just happen to be one of those kind of people that will ask you in the hopes that I don't offend you.
Right.
So, and you saying that, I see it a lot. There's Caucasian people sometimes are afraid to say something or ask a question because they don't want to get that backlash, or they don't want to feel like, have I offended you in any way? One of the things I handle in conversations, if I hear someone saying something that is offensive to my culture, I just tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them why it's offensive. And then when I explain it, most times they're like, oh, wow, that's not what I intended, which I know they didn't. But unless we share and tell each other, school each other on things that we have dealt with in our culture, that's how we learn and that's how we grow. And then we take certain words back. Okay, I won't say that anymore, you know, because I see
Right.
that offends that person, you know. And they could have been saying it in love, laughing about it. You know, I've done it a couple of weeks ago where someone said something. I'm like, oh, you might not want to say it around Black people. Around me, it's a no, but I'm going to tell you why. Because if you meet somebody else out there and you say it, I might not ever see you again. So you want to change that vocabulary.
Right.
So we have to have those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I've been doing so much on this podcast is basically like, I'm probably going to seem like I have no idea what I'm talking about, right? I might come across as a complete fool, but you know what? At the end of the conversation, I will be less of a fool, which is the goal, which is the whole point. But I think it also goes back to that idea of putting good assumptions on people, right? So if you say something to me or I say something to you that comes across in the wrong way, right? That comes across as offensive or something like that. Well, if you're assuming that I'm trying to offend you, well, then it's gonna confirm it. It's gonna be like, well, of course, there it is. It showed up, you know, then it just sort of, it cements some negative assumptions, right? And then like that just, it creates even more of this mess. But if the first assumption is, you probably didn't mean for that to come across that way, so let me just let you know. And then if I'm not trying to be offended or get offended, then you can say, hey, you shouldn't say that. And I'm going to go, I really shouldn't say that. I had no idea. I am genuinely sorry. And, you know, and honestly, those conversations to me have been part of really building friendships and relationships, you know, because if I can give you that equity, if we can have that equity between us, then I can really learn from you, you know.
That's right.
And like you can learn from me and we can actually like, and that's something that I really, man, I wish we had more of. There's so many incredible things to learn about each other. So to that end, there's this phrase that I would like to get your perspective on. All right.
Okay.
And it goes to exactly what we're talking about. And it's this idea of cultural appropriation. Now I know that's a hot topic, but this idea of what is it for you, but then also like, what does it mean in like a negative sense? And then and how do you grow and learn from different cultures and bring some of that into your life in a positive way, so it's like that juggling match,
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Ding, 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 ding. Well, I might be one of those weird people again
Mm-hmm.
that I see life differently. Um, I feel as though no one or no culture owes me anything. I feel that things that have happened in the past where happened to my people and my culture in the past is is connected at a certain point, but not so much so that I'm gonna start seeing you in a negative light because of what happened to my ancestors years ago. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna learn from it, but I'm not going to feel like anyone owes me anything, and vice versa. Um, Culture to me is very serious. It's very, I want to learn different cultures. I want to know why people feel the way that they do. Even people that look at me as a threat or just can't stand me because of my skin, I want to know why. I want to ask them, so why do you feel that way? The scary part is when they can explain why they feel that way. There's something there that has you thinking the way that you do against me, but you don't know what that is. You need to dig deep and figure that thing out. Either you've been taught it, you've grown up with it in your life, and it's just a part of who you are now. But I ask people, why do you feel that way toward me? Because I really want to know. Now, on the flip side, there's people that don't care why you don't like them. You're like, okay, you're white, you just don't like black people. Well, why don't they like black people? Or do they really not like black people? Like, why are they feeling that way? Even as a black woman, I mean, people say if I see a black guy walking by me, I'm gonna get like scared. Well, honestly, if I see a scary black person walk by me, I'm gonna get scared too. If I see a scary white person walk past me, I'm gonna get scared too. So there, people are people. And so we have to get past that way of thinking that the world owes us something, and we need to learn from our experiences and make things better. I think culture is very important. I think we become better people because of culture differences.
Well, and I do too, and I love the differences in different cultures and the way different people grew up. I also think it's kind of there's some ignorance built into the idea that you can also just say like, I can look at you and decide what culture you grew up in or how that showed up in your life, right? Like I can look at you and just make an assumption, be like, well, okay, so I know what culture you're going to identify with most. It's like, that would be very, very ignorant.
Oh, I don't like that. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
And I don't like it either, but I also look at it
Yeah.
and I go, for me, when I think about like my culture, right? I put it in quotation marks because I don't even know what I would call my
Mm-hmm.
culture, right? Like I just grew up here. I don't know. And for me,
Yeah.
I like learning from other places. I like learning from other people. I've had the great privilege of
Yeah.
traveling to every continent except for Antarctica, and I'm going to get there too one day. Um,
Yes.
but having traveled all over, it's like I was in South Africa. I was in Korea and Japan. I've been over to Europe. I've been to South America, and you just see all of this, and you're like, man, there's
Mm.
so much about all these places that I want more of in my life. Like
Yes.
I want to bring like so much of this together because it's beautiful. And honestly,
Yes.
to what you were saying about when you meet people who it's like you don't even know why you have this hatred or this ignorance in your heart. I think part of it is because people have been so closed off to learning and experiencing different cultures and seeing the incredible, like amazing things that show up in other people's lives because they've grown up around different things and experiences.
Yes. And I think we have to stop supporting what's the word? Stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
We have to break that wall And we have to do it person by person. Like we just all have to pitch in and say, okay, listen, that's a stereotype. And I'll give you an example. So when Obama was running for president, people just automatically assumed because I was a Black person, I voted for Obama. Like, I don't like that. Like, don't just put me in a box, you know? And I'm not going to ask anyone who they voted for because honestly, I don't care because that's going to be a whole nother situation. But if you want to talk about it, we can,
Right.
but you might not want to talk to me about it because I'm going to keep it 100. But don't put me in a box because I'm a Black woman. And I'm not going to put you in a box because you're a white man. We've got to stop doing that and stop thinking we're dominant over another ethnic group. Like, where did that come from? How did that even start? You know, I try to tell my people, we are such a rich culture, not taken away from any other culture. Why can't I say my culture is rich and beautiful and all these beautiful browns and tans without my Caucasian brothers and sisters getting offended by it? That should not be a problem, even with the white culture, vice versa. If you guys celebrate your culture, your skin color, the things that y'all do, like y'all go swimming a lot. I don't want to swim. I can't get this hair wet, but that's okay. That is okay. It's just that I'm not a swimmer. So
Right.
it's those things that we just have to, some of it's funny to me. Like, why are we going against each other because of our differences? My son is a Black man and he's married to a Hispanic woman. Beautiful. When I first met her, I didn't think, oh boy, he's marrying someone that's not Black. My main thing was, is she a Christian? When I got that answer, I was like, shh, we good then. She loves the Lord, we good, you know?
Right.
So we just have to get to that place where we, accept each other for who we are and not our skin tone. Because there's some Black people I don't like.
Well, you know what I found out is
I love them.
I found out there are some people in general, and I mean people like humans, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, how you could split it up however you want to, with whether it's skin tone, whether it's gender, whatever you want to say.
Whatever.
Split it up. But I found that there are some good people and some not so wonderful people, and they seem to be kind of everywhere and in every single group and in whatever, however you want to split it up. You have people who either value and treat other people with respect and love, and then you have some people who don't. And I would much rather we were just splitting, like that would be kind of the defining line where it's like, all right, well, you unfortunately are one of the people who doesn't seem to value other humans. So
right.
I'm probably not going to be your best friend. I will love
That's
you,
right.
but I'm
Right.
probably not going to have you over for dinner. Like probably
Right.
not. Maybe we'll see. But yeah,
Not
it's
gonna happen. Yeah.
But what you're saying earlier, that it's really, man, I think about this a lot where like, I don't know, we have in our heads, and it's not set specifically, but we all know it's there, where we have this like hierarchy of like, well, I think that the Asian culture is sort of here, and then maybe like, we've got the South American culture is like right here at this, and like there's this weird, and I don't even know how it makes sense, right? But we have it where it's like, oh, wait, hold on. You want to elevate and talk about how awesome the Black culture is. Well, that messes up a hierarchy that somehow exists in my brain, and I don't even understand it. Like we have this. And to me, I look at it, and to me, I just think about it as like this sort of covering over all of humanity, where it's just like our cultures are just this big thing that's sort of over everybody, and it shows up in all these different ways, and it, all these different facets of it. And so if you're pulling down and pointing to these different things from different cultures, I'm like, it's incredible. Like, I want to look at that, and I want to go, that's amazing that's something that comes from a culture that you're from or that you love, and then maybe here's something from this one that I think is awesome.
Right.
And I just wish we could kind of like, we just throw it up there, and you don't have to love everything about every culture. I do not like Indian food. I'm not saying that to slight Indian food. I just don't like it.
And you don't have to like it. It's okay.
Let me tell you, Indian music is amazing. I was at it filming an Indian wedding, and I was like, oh, wow, this is incredible, And so it's like, it's okay.
Okay, yes. I love that.
You know what, this right here, this conversation right here, to me is really what people are missing, is like, just talk to people, right?
Yeah.
Have a conversation where you say, I might completely make myself look like an idiot, but I'm giving you the permission to let me know when I'm an idiot and to correct me or to educate me. And I'm going to grow and learn. And, you know, you're going to grow and learn, and we're going to leave it knowing more and being better.
That's how we're going to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're just going to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Grow.
All right. So I like to ask people this question. What do you think, for you specifically, what is your purpose as a person?
You hit me with rockets. Okay, so I have been known to be a networker, a connector type person. I love connecting people. I know a lot of people. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but when I meet people, I think in my mind, oh, wow, if they get together with this person, that ministry or wherever they're doing can skyrocket. And so that's one of my things. It just happens quickly. I love to serve people. I believe my purpose is to let people know that they are loved by God, number one, because there's a lot of people walking around that don't believe God loves me because of things they've done. Well, honey, let me share some things I've done. And the Lord still loves me. He died for all of us. And so you can have that freedom. My purpose is actually multifaceted, and it just because of my personality. Even the arts world, creating dances and productions is all stemmed around the love of God. I want you to see the reflection of God through movement. And so it all ties in together. Even at the pregnancy center, my purpose is the same thing, showing you the love of God and how that works and how the connection with Him works. So no matter where I go, first of all, I am the church, but no matter where I go, because the Holy Spirit dwells within me, I'm going to operate the same wherever I go, still depending on the situation, if that makes sense. So my purpose is to love, spread love, share the love of Christ, serve. I love serving people. One of my number one things I love to do, and this may sound crazy, next to the broccoli, I just love to make people laugh. I love to see people laugh. And sometimes I don't even realize how crazy and obnoxious I am. But when people laugh, I'm like, yes, you're smiling, you're laughing. Ask my coworkers, there was one time something happened. I was just so overwhelmed. I crawled under my desk. Now, I'm the office manager. That's not something you really see people do. I crawled under my desk and pulled a chair in, and they all walked in like, where's Rhonda? And they're like, why are you down there? So the whole office is laughing. And I love that. Let's make each other laugh. Let's smile. Let's talk. So I know that was the long answer. It sounds like a long purpose, but it's really just that one. Just a whole bunch of things are sprouting out from it. So I just love people and serving.
And you know what? That's a great answer. So the reason I asked that question is not because there's a right or wrong answer. It's really because I like to find out people's why, right? Which is kind of like it makes more sense when you ask people their purpose as opposed to go, what's your why in life? But to me, that's what it kind of comes down to is like, what's the why you do things, why you are. And I think it can really tell you a lot about somebody when you figure that out. And a lot of times you can figure out somebody's why by looking at what they do and how they are and how they act and how they treat people. But, I like to find that out because it also, for people who are listening, who are watching, I like to make people think and encourage them to think and go, do you know what yours is? Because if you don't, and you're just kind of searching around for something, and you're going to find yourself really getting thrown all over the place if you don't have a why, if you don't have that purpose or that identity. And so that's why I ask, because I like learning about people. And I love the idea of, love that you like to try to make people laugh, even at your own expense. And because I'm the same way. And I know my wife looks at me, my wife watches me sometimes, and I can just see her. She's like, I am so happy I married you right now. And I just think, man, I am so lucky that you are still here. but I can make her laugh too. And that's the thing, is I can make her laugh too. And so we're okay.
Yes,
But no, I love it. I think
that's
laughter
good.
also breaks down so many walls, so
Yes,
many things that show up where it's like, if we can laugh, if we can show that we can both laugh
yes.
at each other or at ourselves, and more importantly, at
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and with each other, then we're okay.
Yes,
We can
yes.
go from there.
We'll be fine.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about, this is really like what people can take away, like somebody's listening, somebody's watching, and they're going, okay, I love it. It makes sense. I want to be a part of these conversations with people who I don't know, or I don't understand, or I just want to learn, right? I want to take that step. I want to get out there. I want to have these conversations. So, what do I do? What do I do? How do I start some of these conversations with people I don't necessarily know? So from your perspective, what do you think people should do? What's some things you would encourage them to try?
I would encourage people to, first of all, look at their surroundings outside of them being in their house, of course, but where they go. My dad is a kind of person that he'll speak to a rock if the rock wants to listen. So be a little open to people. Start a conversation in the aisle of a store, or just anything to open up a conversation with people will be for starters. If you go to school, work, car wash, I've had crazy conversations at a car wash. I've had, and those conversations have turned biblical somehow. I'm not even gonna get into that. I think it was the little wipers going around. I was like, it's like wiping the sin away out of your life or something. I don't know. But just have conversations with people and get to know who they are, and just really sincerely wanting to know who that other person is. Walking around with the heart of openness and observe. I observe people a lot without saying a word, just kind of see how they respond to things and how they do certain things, and then possibly have that conversation afterwards. Go visit museums with different arts and cultures in there. African culture, Italian culture, Indian culture. I went to a powwow one time just because I thought their costumes were hot. And then when I went, I learned so many things about their dancing and what it meant and their culture. And so we just have to be willing to start with us, go out, learn, get what we've learned, and just be strengthened as a person, more colorful as a person as a result of that. Just get out and just do it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And the other flip side of that I think that people have to realize as well is that when somebody comes up and starts a conversation with you, right, be open to that. Because that's the other side of it, where it's like, because you might be the person, you might be thinking, okay, I want to go meet somebody, but then somebody comes up to you and says hi, and you're like, not today, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yes,
that might have been that conversation, because I think about it for me, and I, when I have one of those interactions where I feel like, man, I kind of dismissed that whole thing, I was just too busy for it, and then it was like,
yeah,
I might have just really missed out on something.
That's really good. I'm glad you brought that point. That also let me think also that every time may not be the right time to approach somebody, maybe kind of look at their body language and their facial expressions first.
Right.
Maybe want to be that bot, ask questions or whatever. So just be mindful of that. I was thinking the other day, even, I don't know why, but as far as dating, do men ask women out anymore? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't happen to me. But then I thought, do you look like you don't want someone to ask you out? You know what I mean? What does your face look like? What does your body language look like? And do men feel like, okay, I'm not going to ask anyone out because I don't want to be rejected. Like, I'm always trying to figure out how that person feels on the other side. So that's just a nugget. I don't know how that even came into play. But yeah.
No, I think
it was a thought process.
No, I think it makes total sense because it's very similar to just going and talking to a stranger or someone you don't know. Because it's like if the way that I appear, the way that I hold myself says basically you need to be much further than the 6 feet away they're recommending. Well, then you're probably not going to be like, hey, how's it going? You're going to be like, well, I'll go to the other checkout aisle. And so that's probably not going to encourage conversation. But I also, right now it's so difficult because everybody with the masks on, everybody looks mad pretty much, whether they are or not. Because I do videography, so I'm doing these videos at different places, and I was doing a video at this event. It's a cool event, and these people, I got this video of these people who are really excited about this product, and they're holding it up and they're smiling. But I looked at the video afterwards, and I was like, they look mad. I know they're smiling, but I can't see it, and so it's like they look like they're upset to be here. I can understand why it would make it even harder to go up to somebody and say, "Hi, how's it going?" Because it's like
exactly.
I can't tell, so.
And I would suggest for the single ladies out there, do not, and men, I don't think this is a good season to approach. I shouldn't say this. You don't know what people look like under the mask. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Because the other day, this guy pulled off his mask. I'm like, okay, you didn't put the mask back on. I'm just saying, just be careful.
Oh man. Hey, no, we're gonna go off on like a hilarious little mask thing because okay, so here's the thing, because I think masks for some guys are basically what makeup has been for some girls, where it's like, oh, all of a sudden the makeup's off and you're like, oh, that's who you are.
Yes, I like that.
And I've heard, and it's also facial hair for guys. You see some guy with a big beard, and you're like, oh, it looks good. And then they shave it, and it's like, oh, whoa, you look like a completely different human. So it is pretty funny. But I got to imagine that makeup companies are just losing a fortune right now, because it's like, why am I going to worry about that?
They're losing it. I only put makeup on from here up.
Mm-hmm.
Just put my eyebrows and eyeshadow, and then I put my mask on. Like, why even bother with foundation and lipstick? Who does that?
It's just going to end up on the inside of the mask anyway.
And that is gross. Yeah.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. Man, it's such a funny time. But you know what? You have to be able to laugh. And have conversations, and and just keep moving. That is something that, and if you're listening, if you're watching, please know that there is there's a greater than zero chance that the first person or the first situation, the first opportunity to have a conversation will not work perfectly. That the person across from you is going to be busy, or that person is not going to be ready to be open, right? But that's okay. Because as long as if your motives, if your whole reason for it is just wanting to share love and to learn and to interact, just keep moving, because even if they weren't ready then, they're going to leave and they're going to be like, you know what? That was a nice person, right? Like
exactly. At the end of the day.
Yeah, you maybe soften them up for the next one, maybe the next conversation.
And you can also dive in and say, do you mind if I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
And some people are, okay, well, what is that question? Because I'm that kind of person. If someone says, do you mind if I ask you a question? Oh yeah, I want to know what you're about to ask me. I mean, that's okay too, but that's a good point that you said. If they're not ready now, then just keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, one of the things my brother and I talk about, and we've joked about on the podcast, is that our goal for this podcast is that as quickly as possible, it's a completely irrelevant conversation and podcast that no one cares, because why would I listen to a podcast about people talking? Because it'd be so obvious, right? And so that's truly it. Like, that's why I appreciate so much you hopping on and having this conversation with me. We've never met before. I've never spoken to you in my life. Never. It's not one of those where it's like, oh, we've been friends for 30 years, so let's just talk. Nope. Right. I've never talked to you before in my life.
Never.
But it just goes to show that, like, you can and you should. And, and you seem like an amazing person that after the podcast is over, I would love to get to know more about you. Like, I would love to get to learn more about you and what you're about.
Yeah.
But it would have never happened if I did not want to have this conversation.
Never would have happened. Exactly. We got to start somewhere. So conversation at the beginning. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. So any final thoughts you want to leave listeners, viewers with? And again, if you're listening, you forgot at the very start, we talked about where people can volunteer if they're in the DFW area and they want to volunteer. So if you want to hit that one more time, and then any final thoughts for people listening and watching.
Sure. So Prestonwood Pregnancy Center, we help families, young moms and fathers with free pregnancy tests, free sonograms, and we also advocate, which means we ask them how they're doing, what needs do they have, Are there any situations we can help them through? So if you're interested in volunteering, all the training is free. Everything is free. You get wonderful snacks in the office. But the website where you can go see the options that are out there is PrestonwoodPregnancyCenter.org. Click on volunteer and see all the different things on there. We also need people to teach classes on Zoom. Donors, if you feel like I want to, give money, we'll take that as well. So there's a lot of things on there that you can look at. What I would like to leave with people is let's do a little less judging and more talking. If I can leave you with anything, let's just talk things out. You don't ever have to like me. That's okay. Everyone doesn't like me. I don't know why, but they don't. So it's okay. Let's love on people, have those conversations, and get some good sleep at night. Don't worry about it.
I love it. Such great advice. And we're gonna put the link to Preston.
Prestonwood
Pregnancy Center. We're going to put all of that in the description on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you're watching there, you can see, we'll have the link in the description. You can just click right there. But thank you, Rhonda, for being on the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure. I feel like we could have talked for hours.
We could have.
I have no doubt. And I think we could have gone down that dating rabbit trail a little bit further. I think that would have been pretty fun. I mean, I just feel like we could do a whole nother podcast, and maybe we will in the future. But thank you so much. It is greatly appreciated. And I want to leave everybody, if you're listening, watching, a final thought is this conversation you just listened to does not count as the conversations you need to have. You can just listen to it and let it encourage you to go talk to somebody, but this does not count. You still need to go talk to people. So please go and do that. Put yourself out there, love some people, and I think you will be very happily surprised with what you find. So, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Oh man.